Welcome to the Modern Application Development 2 screencast. In this screencast, we look at lifecycle of Vue app and hooks that we can use. For this, you will need editor like VSODM or Sublime Text, browser like Firefox or Chrome. You can install Vue.js dev tools if you think it makes it easy for you to debug. Here on the screen, you will see an image of Vue lifecycle given to us by the Vue.js documentation site. A Vue lifecycle, a Vue app or a component goes through a series of steps throughout its life, from the initialization, or that is creation, to getting destroyed or removed. Along the way, it also runs functions called lifecycle hooks, giving us, the users, opportunity to add our own code at specific stages of the app or component. Now let's look at some of the Vue's lifecycle hooks. On the screen, you can see a new Vue app being initialized. Before initialization, it calls create. After that, it calls created. All the red ones are the lifecycle hooks. And then before mounting, it calls beforemount. After it gets mounted, it calls mounted. Then once it's mounted, whenever there is a change in data or state, the virtual DOM gets updated and patched. Before it happens, before update is called, post that updated is called. Now when you exit the page or hide the Vue component or destroy it, before it gets destroyed, before destroy is called. After it gets destroyed, destroyed is called. So you can see even the tense of the hooks change. Before, like for example, before create, and then after creation is complete, created. Right. So now let's look at one by one. Let's add some code to look at all of them, actually at least 4 of them, and then I'll explain to you. For the ease, I'll just write first like any other function. Here is the Vue app. I'm using the same app that we had used before. It's a simple app, same, no change. I'm just going to add some lifecycle hooks to the app and not the component, right? So you can create before create hook. It's basically a function which takes nothing currently, and you can do whatever you want to do inside. So I'll just add just a message called before create, right? And then I'll just refresh. So you can see that before create got called, right, at the beginning itself. Now before create is actually called synchronously. Here you can see it's called synchronously. It's called immediately after the instance being initiated. No data observation is set up, no event watcher is set up, hence there's no access to data. So let's try and print and just check that. I'll just print this dot grand total, and I'm going to save and refresh. So you can see that it's undefined, right? Next event hook or the lifecycle hook is created. It happens after the initialization of injection and reactivity is complete. This is also called in synchronous mode after the application or the component has been created. At this point, data observation, computed properties, methods, watch events, callbacks are set up, but it's not yet mounted. At this point, you won't have access to EL, but you will have access to data, so you can use the data. This is also a good point or a place where you can fetch some data from the back, so you can show some data to the user before the app gets shown to the user, right? So let's just check that whether we have access to the data. So I'm just going to copy paste the same thing here and call it created. Okay, and refresh this. You can see that it's been initialized to 0 and we have access to that grand total. So this is also one of the places where you can call like maybe fetch to get the data from backend. We'll look at mount as well later where you can do that, but yeah, this is one of the step. After create, we're going to get another lifecycle event called beforemount. So here beforemount, this happens as soon as there is a compilation and template is ready to render, but it's not completely ready to replace the EL with. So at this point beforemount is called. Once it's mounted, the mounted lifecycle hook is called. So I'll just add both of them so it's quick for us to check it. Right, before mount and mounted, same tense, before mount and mounted. So you can see it's been mounted and we have access to EL. At this point, more than access to EL, the EL is replaced by our virtual EL. So that way we have the control on it now. We can manipulate it or modify it as we want. So mounted is another place where you can do fetch. Like you can also do fetch data from backend, for example, right, and do necessary things and show it to the user. Now before an update happens every time there's a change to virtual DOM. For example, if I change the data, then virtual DOM changes and then these two get called. Let's do that also. Before update, this is not required. Update, updated. Okay, now let's go here. I'll clear it and run it. Okay, now it's not called yet. Now let's go to view. Make it 1. Right, so it got changed here. Now if you go to console, you can see that before update and update got called. That's because we changed the data and the data in turn changed the virtual DOM. Hence before update and updated is called. Right, now let's look at the next set, before destroy and destroyed. I'm not going to look at it. I will leave that to you to explore. Now where can you use destroy and before destroy? I think for example, if you are using inside, if you are doing a single page application and if you hide certain things or move away certain things, then before destroy and destroyed gets called. In before destroyed, you still have access to $el property and all the other properties. So you can do things that you want to do before app or this component gets cleared. For example, you can switch off your event hooks, or you can switch off clear child components or clear watchers. You can turn off event listeners or event hooks. All of that you can do before destroy. And now the destroyed, this one gets called at the end when the component or the app has been destroyed. At this point you don't have access to any of the data or EL or any of those parameters. Right? You usually use this to send an alert to the main app or other components that this specific component or app has been destroyed and do something about it. Usually if you like one gets destroyed and the other component shows some message, then you can use destroyed as a hook to do that. In before destroy, you actually do all the shutdown things that you want to do. Right? There is also activated and deactivated event hooks, or lifecycle hooks rather. and they're not used a lot. You can learn about them by yourself. You can go to API site of Vue.js, and they have all the information about all of the APIs and event lifecycle hooks that you can look at and learn about them, right? You can go here. You can search for example, before create. Yeah, so you can see all the lifecycle object. Now there is one more thing to remember. All lifecycle hooks automatically have their own this context bound to the instance. So you actually can't write this arrow functions. You have to write full-fledged function. That's why we have written this, full defined function and not arrow function. It's important to remember because sometimes you end up doing that and get stuck. Now there is also a debate as to where to fetch the data. Should it fetch it here or should we fetch it here, right? It depends actually, and it's highly contested. It depends on your requirements and use cases where you want to fetch the data, but the most suggested one is to do it at the mounted thing because everything is ready, and it also useful when you are using server-side rendering. But you can also fetch in created before the user is shown the UI. But remember, most times people prefer to do fetching of the data and other things in the mounted lifecycle webhook. Another thing to remember is if you call async await inside a mounted one, it won't block the rendering of the things because it's already mounted. So you can do that and reset it. So you can also call async await without actually hindering the usability, right? And that's it actually. So you could actively use lifecycle hooks to do various things at the various points in the life of a Vue app, and the same applies to Vue component as well, right? Let me just add that. Let me just add app here, right? App. Okay, I'm just going to make the copy of the same thing. Okay, I'll add it to component, which is one of our component message board. They also have similar lifecycle, but here I'll just do COMP component, okay, instead of app. I'm going to remove this because this is not the data that is present here. You could actually check for the data that is present in the component. This can be left, but I'm just going to remove just for testing purpose, right? So this all has app, this all has component. So you can see there is one app, and in our application there are 3 components. So it should do it for all of them, right? Let's clear that. So you can see that before create and app created, before create. Yeah, so we are not given app here. So just to make it clear and easy to understand, I'll just make that. Okay. So you can see that app got created and then app got before mount, then the mounting starts to happen, right? As part of the mounting happening, you have all the components getting initialized and setting up and things like that and mounted, and then once that is complete, the whole app gets mounted. That's it. If you remove the component, then it will go through its own cycle of destroyed and before destroy. And then if you remove the whole app, at that point app will also get the same hook calls. That's it actually. Thank you for watching. Hope you'll end up using some of these hooks to update your components or app at specific times in the life cycle of the Vue app or component. Thank you. Bye.